Hare
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna.
Staying far out the mud of you. That's good. Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Givaradari Yashodanandana Bhajajana Ranjana Yamunatiro Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Givaradari Yashodanandana Bhajajana Ranjana Yamunatiro Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Givaradari Yashodanandana Bhajajana Ranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Shri Shri Radha Gokulananda ki, Sitaram Lakshman Hanuman ki, Shri Gaura Nitai ki, Srila Prabhupada ki. Thanks. So we are reading from Bhagavad Gita, verse 440 and 441. So I will say or read the translation and Sanskrit of 440, and then we'll do call and response for 441. So Bhagavad Gita 440. Ajsash jasnudadahanash cha samsatyama vinashati nayam loko asti na paro na sukyam samsyat atmana. So that's 440, translation. But ignorant and faithless persons who doubt the revealed scriptures do not attain God consciousness. They fall down. For the doubting soul there is happiness neither in the world nor in the next. And the purport for this one is, out of many standard and authoritative revealed scriptures, the Bhagavad Gita is the best. Persons who are almost like animals have no faith in or knowledge of the standard revealed scriptures, and some, even though they have knowledge of or can recite passages from the revealed scriptures, have actually no faith in these words. And even though others may have faith in scriptures like Bhagavad Gita, they do not believe in or worship the personality of Godhead. Sri Krishna, such persons cannot have any standing in Krishna consciousness. They fall down. Out of all above mentioned persons, those who have no faith and are always doubtful make no progress at all. Men without faith in God and His revealed word find no good in this world nor in the next. For them there is no happiness whatsoever. One should therefore follow the principles of revealed scriptures with faith, thereby be raised to the platform of knowledge. Only this knowledge will help one become promoted to the transcendental platform of spiritual understanding. In other words, undoubtful persons who have no status whatsoever in spiritual emancipation, one should therefore follow the footsteps of great acharyas who are in the disciplic succession and thereby attain success. So Bhagavad Gita 441 we can recite. Yoga sanyasta karmanam jnana sanjina samshayam atmavantam na karmani nibandi tanaschaya. Yoga sanyasta karmanam jnana sanjina samshayam atmavantam nakamani nibadanti danaschaya. Yoga sanyasta kamanam jnana sanjina samshayam atmavantam nakamani nibadanti danaschaya. Yoga sanyasta karmanam jnana sanjina samshayam atmavantam na karmani nibadanti janaschaya. Yoga sanyasta karmanam jnana sanjina samshayam atmanavantam na karmani nibadanti danaschaya. So word for word, yoga, by devotional service in karma yoga. Sanyasta, one who has renounced. Karmanam, the fruits of actions. Jnana, by knowledge. Shashjina, cut. Samshashyam, doubts. Atmavantam, situated in the self. Na, never. Karmani, works. Nibadanti, do bind. Dhanamjaya, O conqueror of riches. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki. One who acts in devotional service, renouncing the fruits of his actions and whose doubts have been destroyed by transcendental knowledge, is situated factually in the self. Thus, he is not bound by the reactions of work or conqueror of riches. One who follows the instruction of Bhagavad Gita as it is imparted by the Lord, the Supreme Personality of Godhead Himself, becomes free from all doubts by the grace of transcendental knowledge. He is a part and parcel of the Lord in full Krishna consciousness. He is already established in self-knowledge. As such, he is undoubtedly above bondage to action. Om Gyantimidandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurum Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurve Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalan Shri Guru Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrijatam Sahagana Raghutam Tam Sajivam Sadvaidam Sadvadudam Parijitna Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Vishri Vishakam Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bando Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate. Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhanu Sutadevi Pranamami Haripriya Vancha kalpa tarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya evacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadada Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktivedanta Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Srila Prabhupada ki. I would like to ask for all the blessings of the Vaishnavas watching here in the temple room and online. Thank you for the seniors for allowing me to have this opportunity. I pray I can say something of some relevance and that's substantial, that will help one in their Krishna conscious advancement. So let's begin. So to sum up both verses kind of together, the ignorant and the faithless who doubt God, they always fall down. When one doubts real knowledge, when one doubts the soul, this just leads to more depression, and no happiness. So one must render devotional service, renouncing the fruits of their action. Their doubts will then be destroyed by the weapon of knowledge. Hence, they will not even be bound by the reactions of their work. I think we will cover this obviously in Karma Yoga section, but this is kind of what it's saying. So when I was preparing for this class in verse 440, the word faith is given many times. So I thought it's only right that I make an acronym for faith, just for this verse. It kind of makes it a bit more digestible, I think. It's difficult to put two verses kind of in at once. So the acronym is faith. So F is for fruits, A is for action, I is for internal, T is for transcendental knowledge, and H is for homage. So I think the overall understanding of this verse is one who doesn't have faith falls down. One who has faith rises up, as simple as that. That's how faith works. So F is for fruits. So, like I said, one must give up the fruits of their work. Instead, give the fruits of their action to Krishna. So in Bhagavad Gita 2:47, is that verse, Karmani evadikaste ma paleshu kadachana ma karma pala hetur mate sangos astav akarmani. You have the right to perform your prescribed duty, but you are not entitled to the fruits of action. Never consider yourself the cause of results of activities, and never be attached to not doing your duty. So, one must perform their duty, whatever it is, but their mindset shouldn't be. They shouldn't feel like they're entitled to the fruits even from the beginning. Because as your actions are, none of this. By your actions, they reflect that when it's not ours. That's how it should be. This is all Krishna's. Everything belongs to Krishna. So as we do this more and more, as we practice giving up the fruits, then our faith deepens in Krishna consciousness. So I'll move on to the next part of the acronym, A. A is for action. There's a saying, action speaks 1,000 words, or sometimes people say actions speak louder than words. So, we can say so much about actions. By our actions, it goes to show what our character is by what we do. When I was living at home, I would tell myself I'm going to wake up at 4:30 a.m. every day. And I would always say this to myself every day, and then it would approach 4:30 a.m. and I just wouldn't be able to do it. So that showed so much about what I was saying I was going to do something, but I didn't act on it. So instead of saying so much, we should just act more. So when we act for Krishna, it shows a lot more. And when we act for Krishna in the right way, he then he comes closer to us, and this is what builds our faith. When we see Krishna in our everyday life, we can actually. Krishna consciousness is difficult sometimes because we don't always see the results of what Krishna gives us. But, we may be looking in the wrong places. But anyway, like I said, this builds faith. So the next part of the acronym, so we've already covered F and A. So that's fruits and action. Now we're up to I, internal. So internally, we must always try to remember Krishna in all situations. But first, internally, we can make decisions to be Krishna conscious. We can pick, as an example, we can pick to have, caffeinated tea, or we can pick to have decaffeinated tea. This is a decision that we make in Krishna consciousness. Which one's going to be better for, first, our consciousness? You see, so this is just a very little example, but we have these decisions to make every day. Should I do those extra rounds, or should I go and do something that's kind of not as good for my spiritual life? We always have these decisions to make. But like I said, first internally we have to make the decisions to be right in the right consciousness. They say, first we must be conscious, then we can be Krishna conscious. So when I say conscious, I mean we can be in the mode of goodness. We can be doing the right things, and then from there it's a lot easier for us to become Krishna conscious. So, as an example, cleanliness is one of the I guess it's one of the most strongest things you can, that gets you into the mode of goodness. Because if we're clean, then internally we also then become clean. And if we're internally clean, then when we try and think of Krishna, when we do all these things for Krishna, we can be pure-minded in that way. So we can then be in pure goodness. So, be clean and organized in a good state of mind, and we'll be free of contamination of external things. Eat well, sleep well, look after yourself. Then, when one is ready to put their faith in Krishna, like I said, their consciousness will be clean enough to do so. So that's FAI, up to T now. So this was one of the main points from this, especially from 441. Transcendental knowledge will elevate one. So T is for transcendental knowledge. So for the last three to work, we must first have the knowledge. How do we give up the fruits? How do we act? How are we supposed to be internally? So without transcendental knowledge, it's very difficult to do these things. So the way I see this acronym is kind of like a progression in some way. So, one must know who they are, and that's what transcendental knowledge gives. So in 1328, Samam sarveshu bhuteshu tishtanam param shvaram vinashyatsva ahansayitam yaha pashyati sa pashyati. One who sees the supersoul accompanying the individual soul in all bodies, and who understands that neither the soul nor the supersoul within the destructible body is ever destroyed, actually sees. So if one understands, then they know that they're not, that their body is destructible, but their individual soul with the super soul is, eternal. So 1323, then I won't read the Sanskrit because it may take a bit too long. In this body there is another, a transcendental enjoyer, who is the Lord, the supreme proprietor, who exists as the overseer and the permitter, and who is known as the super soul. So the super soul is, is the part where God lives in us. But by this basic knowledge, one can have more faith in God, that God even exists, and that we're not this body. We're the soul and the super soul is something sublime. So that's kind of the main point of this part of the acronym, just making sure we have the correct knowledge. So the last part of the acronym is H, homage. So I wanted to zone into this point mainly, because I think this is a very important part and isn't kind of covered too much. But before we do any of what I've said above, we must first offer homage to our spiritual master. We must offer, we must ask for blessings. We must, before we're able to even dive deep into knowledge. And we must ask for blessings and mercy to actually understand this knowledge. And one of the first things that we're kind of shown in Bhagavad Gita, as shown in the introduction, one of the first pages is the displicit succession. And this is one of the most important things about reading this specific Bhagavad Gita, because if your knowledge isn't coming from the right source, then it's completely pointless. There's no substance to it. So as this knowledge is coming in displicit succession, we can say that it's authorized. So this is a way that we can trust a guru. This is how we trust Srila Prabhupada, because we know that the knowledge Srila Prabhupada has comes in displicit succession. So this proves the viability. And when we know this, all the rest comes ultimately, which leads to full faith in Krishna. If we're able to have faith in the scriptures, then we have faith in Krishna. We sing many bhajans or songs, about Guru. In the Mangala Charan, before we start reading or hearing class, I offer my respectful obeisances unto my spiritual master, who has opened my eyes, which were blinded by the darkness of ignorance, with a torchlight of knowledge. So we can see this is again asking, we're offering our obeisances unto the spiritual master to open our eyes from ignorance. We offer our respects to the spiritual master first, of all who takes us out of this ignorance and gives us faith. And then, every morning in the Mangalarati, we first sing the Shri Guru Astaka, the 8 prayers of the Guru by Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. So the first verse even says, Samsara Davan Lalida Loka Chanaya Karunya Ganaganatvam Praptasya Kalana Gunagan Vasya Vande Guru Shri Charanada Vrinda. The spiritual master is receiving the benediction from the ocean of mercy, just as cloud pours water on a forest fire to extinguish it. So the spiritual master delivers the material afflicted world by extinguishing the blazing fire of material existence. I offer my respectful obeisance unto the lotus feet of such a spiritual master, who is an ocean of auspicious qualities. So we must first offer our respects to the spiritual master, who will get us out of this material existence, and we must fully surrender to that spiritual master completely. So a few days ago, or last week, we had a program for His Holiness Bhakti Charu Swami. I believe this was on the 4th of July. And from this, I heard from, we've heard from the disciples, or from his disciples, and they went kind of all out. They did so much for him. And I'm paraphrasing here, but I heard Giriraj Swami say that the disciple must cry out for the spiritual master, must yearn for him. So it kind of reminded me of that verse in Bhagavad Gita 2.7. Kalpanya dashofata svabhava prachamitvam dharma samudacheta yakchera syan nishtam bruhitan me shastaham sadimam tvam prapanam. Now I'm confused about my duty and I've lost all composure because of miserly weakness. In this condition I'm asking to tell me for certain what is best for me. Now I'm your disciple and a soul surrendered unto you. Please instruct me. So, we can see here that, this is one of the key verses of Bhagavad Gita. This is where, at the point where Arjuna surrenders to Krishna and just says, instruct me, I don't know what else to do. This is the attitude I feel like we should have every day with Guru. We should be surrendering to Guru every single day and asking, please instruct me. And if we don't have a particular Diksha Guru, then Srila Prabhupada, he's there. We pray to Srila Prabhupada and we ask him to instruct us, and he's extremely merciful to us. He came to pull us out of this ocean of misery. So my personal reflection of what I've experienced, one can have full faith in Krishna consciousness if they have full faith in Guru first. So when I came into Krishna consciousness, the first book I read was The Journey Home by His Holiness Radhanath Maharaj. Once I read that book and I became a bit more established in Krishna consciousness, I then started to feel like I had more faith in Maharaj because I can see where he's coming from. I can have like a glimpse of his world. And seeing how much he surrendered to Srila Prabhupada. He traveled all around the world, all around India. He said no to so many people who wanted to give him initiation because he could see that it was all for the wrong reason. But when he met Srila Prabhupada, everything just changed for him. And he surrendered to Srila Prabhupada, and obviously he then through that he surrendered to Krishna. I was completely at that point. I was completely immersed with Maharaj. I also had much faith through Maharaj, also through his disciples, and this is a very important point also, because we may not always have personal contact with our spiritual masters, but through their disciples we can definitely access them just by the mercy of the disciples also. And Radhanath Maharaj's disciples have always somehow, one way or another, had a big impact on my life. My mother is also a disciple of His Holiness Radhanath Maharaj, so it works well, And just for my mother, before Krishna consciousness, and after she got into Krishna consciousness, to after she was initiated in Krishna consciousness, by a spiritual master, Radhanath Maharaj, I could understand, I could see her mood and mission by Maharaj's instructions, was slightly adjusted, You could see there's certain qualities starting to come through more that Maharaj, has. One thing, Maharaj is kind of known for is his humility and compassion, and I can definitely see this in his disciples. They're always so compassionate, and have so much, have so much humility. So before I was in Krishna consciousness, Bhakti Rasavita Maharaj came to our home a few times, And on the last occasion, I was kind of bordering on Krishna consciousness. I mean, I was going through some struggles, but I wasn't sure where I was going. I just thought, okay, this sounds. I mean, what choice do I have? You know, that was kind of the mood I'd taken. I heard what my parents had said. I'd seen so much of how they've matured in Krishna consciousness and the kind of the change. And he asked me a question, and the question he asked me was, you know, at this point, I should say, my parents were in Krishna consciousness for maybe six years or something like that. So Maharaj asked me what was the change I had seen in them. I said the change, I felt the change I saw in my parents was their perspective. He said nothing for a while, and then, you know, some maybe 10-15 minutes went by. And at that time, he just said, "You know, I think you're right." You know, he just out of the blue, and you know, that was one of the things, you know, I could see from Maharaj was he was extremely he was willing to give his mercy to those who are what's the right word for it? He's willing to give his mercy for those who are open to take his mercy. And I feel like, you know, just by that story, you can see that Maharaj, he's willing to listen, you know. And sometimes, you know, we really need this. And the reason I say this is because, you know, he gets these traits also from his spiritual master. And when we then meet a disciple, we then can pick up traits like this. So I always remember this story because I always think, you know, what was Maharaj thinking at this time? What was Bhaktivedanta Maharaj thinking at this time? What was, you know, why did he ask that question, you know? And this, you know, even in these, the tiniest thing pure devotees do, we can pick so many things out. You know, and there's another part. Like when he came, I was asking him. You know, he travelled all around the world. He was, I believe, he was in Australia before he came back to the United Kingdom. And I asked Maharaj, like, what was your favorite place? You know, as you do, you know, what's your favorite place? Did you enjoy your trip? And you know, he was just kind of unfazed by it, or he had no favoritism. He just kind of shrugged it off. He was like, yeah, it was good. You know, as if, you know, this is just another day at work. You know. But, you know, he was just sober. He saw it all as Krishna's property. And his mission was, you know, to bring others close to Krishna, and that's all kind of what mattered. And this reminded me so much of Radhanath Maharaj. Also, you know, everything he does is for, it's for the greater good, for Krishna consciousness. And I mean, this is my personal kind of reflection, that, you know, others can have this same reflection for different spiritual masters. You know, I'm not saying everyone should, you know, follow just Radha Maharaj, but, you know, whatever spiritual master that you feel you connect with, it's definitely good to look at these and be in contact with disciples so that you can kind of understand. So, you know, some examples of great devotees that naturally I've just been attracted to because of their qualities. And I think the reason why they have these qualities is because they get it from Maharaj. So, I mean, there's a huge list. So there's, you know, the famous Ghanshyam Priyadas, Jai Shetty, Janvi Harrison, Gaur Gopal, Gauranga Das. You know, in the ashram we've got Paramakruna Prabhu, Ananta Gopal Prabhu, Navdeep Chandra Prabhu. You know, the list goes on. And, you know, they all share similar qualities that, you know, that I see in Maharaj also. So, I mean, it's interesting. When you sometimes meet disciples of spiritual masters, you can kind of, I've heard this many times, but you can kind of see which spiritual master they may have, you know, because they have the same qualities. And I think it comes from so much association with that spiritual master. So whenever I go through struggles, I watch or read something from Rana Maharaj, and somehow, he always speaks something that helps me. And I was thinking the other day, this is part of Krishna's magic. And, he sends Guru, and when he sends Guru, he's speaking directly through Guru. So just a couple of verses ago. It was 434. Tadvidi pranipantana paripashana sevaya upachanti te jnanam jnanas tatadashinga. Just try to learn the truth by approaching a spiritual master, inquire from him submissively, and render service unto him. The self-realized souls can impart knowledge unto you because they have seen the truth. So if you don't take anything away from this class, as I always say, then take this. The spiritual master is so merciful. Just find the spiritual master and surrender to him. If you do this, you'll have full faith in Krishna. Thank you very much, Hare Krishna. Any questions, reflections?
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much, Prabhu. It was a really, really nice class.
Thank you.
Especially, I loved the anagram and the personal reflections. I guess my one question, in terms of the anagram, it goes from faith, like transcendental knowledge comes, and it's from the knowledge that we can then develop the faith.
Yeah.
So maybe similar to what we've been discussing before, how can we trust, how can we have faith in the knowledge that gives us the faith?
How can we have faith in a knowledge which gives us faith? That's your question. How can we have faith in the knowledge that gives us? So I think, again, this comes down to the dysplicit succession. This is how, if we're getting our knowledge from authority, and we have faith in that authority, I guess, then that leads to more faith in the actual knowledge. It's a bit, I think you can't really understand the knowledge unless you have faith. I think it's very difficult for one to accept the knowledge if they're not, open to it. You might give an atheist a Bhagavad Gita. The knowledge is there, the dysplicit succession is there. But if they're not open to actually taking in the knowledge, and they're quite certain that God doesn't exist, then there's no chance. So I think a lot of Krishna consciousness is first openness and faith in there's something here, and I'm going to kind of hear it out. Not to say that we blindly accept, but we just have to be open to it. And if we accept, we don't accept, it doesn't matter. At least we were open to it, and we kind of tried to accept what it says. And I think that goes for most things, even materially. Material knowledge, we need to first trust the speaker before we actually, like in school we had so many teachers, but only certain teachers we would actually, we would accept what they're saying. Others would kind of be like, really, So like that, I think we just have to. A lot of it comes down to faith, and I hope that answers your question. Any other reflections or questions, thoughts? I think. Okay. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki.